Welcome to the new Cardinal Academy ELD Crash Course. This professional development opportunity was designed for teachers new to our district and recorded in October of 2018. I'm Katie Boer. I work in our Title III English Language Development and Newcomer Immigrant Students program. This is a K through 12 program that serves students in 10 buildings. The first strategy in which you will engage is the karaoke share. On the table in front of you, there are several song titles on small white pieces of paper. The song titles might represent your feelings about working with English learners. So first, you'll choose a song title. Each person chooses their own song title that represents their feelings. After that, in a round-robin fashion, you're going to complete the following sentence stems. I have blank L's this year. I've worked with about blank L's over my career. And I chose this as my song because. So each person chooses their own song, and each person shares all three stems. The person sitting with their back closest to the television will share first. You may pause this video now and resume when you're ready to proceed. So why do we have an ELD program? Well, first let's talk about ELD. ELD stands for English Language Development. So this program is supporting students who are developing their English language in addition to a language that they are learning at home. Students in the program are known as ELs or ELs, English learners. We have a Title III program because it's federally required. Webb City is a public school district. We accept public monies, and so we follow all federal regulations and requirements. There is a legal foundation for Title III. There are several federal legislations and court decisions, as well as some state requirements in MSIP that outline the requirements that we must follow. If you would like more information about the legal foundation of this program, you can contact me. So who qualifies for the ELD program? Uniform entry and exit criteria is established by the state of Missouri. It is not decided locally who is and is not in the program. We must follow the rules outlined by the state, which include asking 3 questions for every student who enrolls in our district, and if another language is indicated in any of those 3 questions, we're required to give the student a standardized screener, and if their score falls within a certain range, they're identified as having limited English proficiency, and they cannot exit the program until they reach a certain level established by the state on the annual assessment, that standardized assessment that they take in the winter. If you would like more information about this process, contact me. So what exactly is ELD? Well, it's so much more than just speaking. A common misconception is that once a student can have a conversation with you, then they're no longer an English learner. Oftentimes you'll hear people say, the student is totally fluent. Well, English Language Development, Title III, isn't about just having a social conversation. It's about reading, writing, listening, and speaking using academic language in each of the content areas. So our goal as a district is to provide students with the tools that they need in order to access content using language. So they need the language of math. They need to be able to read, write, listen, and speak about complex mathematical processes. Students need to be able to read, write, listen, and speak about scientific processes. There are 4 language modalities, and they are complex, and that's what ELD addresses, is the development of the language in all 4 of those areas. So how do you know if you have an ELL? Well, at this point, you would have already received an email from me. The email would have included 2 documents. One is the English Learner Profile. It's a 1-page document that includes important information that you need to know about your student, including information about their background, their English proficiency levels, some goals for the classroom, and then some supports that you can use to help them be successful. The other document that you would have received is the WIDA Access 2.0 Score Report. This includes important information about their proficiency levels in each of those 4 domains: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. So what do services look like? Well, the state tells us who must enter the program and when they can exit, but everything in between is up to us. Individual districts have the autonomy at the local level to make decisions about what our program will look like. The state has developed a list of several program models. We review those program models and we determine which one works best for our students and our teachers. In Webb City, our main model is called Sheltered English. This essentially means that classroom teachers are language teachers. You teach language to children by teaching them content. You support their language development by providing differentiated instruction for them in your classroom. But we also recognize that some students have additional needs beyond that sheltered instruction approach. So we also offer two supplemental models. One model is a push-in model, where we have a paraprofessional push into some classrooms and provide some support for our highest need learners. Another supplemental model is the pull-out model, and this is where someone will pull the student out of the classroom and provide targeted language intervention, either focused on one of those modalities or multiple modalities, or sometimes even all four modalities, depending on the individual child's needs. So no two children have the same exact level of services. It looks different for every student. It's based on their proficiency levels. So since you're a big part of this ELD program through Sheltered English Instruction, you need to know, how do you plan for needs? Well, there's two ways to go about doing that. One is to be really intentional with your instruction. So think about ELD as that tier model, that tier 3 model. So tier 1, the bottom, is about good quality instruction that includes opportunities for students to engage in language. So be intentional. Wrap those opportunities up. Provide them to your students. Give them chances to engage in reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Also, differentiation. So the other side of that is that some students, even though you provide opportunities for them to use the language, they still need more support in order to access the content, in order for it to be comprehensible to them. So you have to provide differentiations. Those can either be pre-planned into the instruction. An example of this might be a reduced reading level or a pre-highlighted text. And other times it's just going to be in the moment. You're going to make an observation, you're going to realize that your students are going to need some support, and then you provide it in the moment. So the key to addressing student needs is tying that intentionality and those differentiations together, and then you are going to be a great language teacher. The next activity you'll engage in is called Spend a Buck. So imagine that you have 100 pennies, and those pennies represent the percentages of a day that your student is engaged in language. You can do this from the perspective of your classroom or just overall a child's experience in school in a year. So what portion of the school day do L's spend engaged in each modality? For example, if you think your student spends half of their day engaged in reading, then you would put half of 100, or 50 pennies, in the reading category. If you think that your student spends a third of their day listening, then you would put a third of those 100 pennies, or 33 pennies, in the listening category. So distribute your 100 pennies based upon what percentage of the day your students, your English learners, spend engaged in each modality. Pause the video and resume when you are ready to proceed. Research shows us that on average, English learners spend about 4% of their day engaged in school talk. That is only 18 minutes. So only 4% of their day are they actively engaged in conversation about academic content. By high school, that number gets reduced. It's only 10 minutes per day. So looking at that percentage distribution that you just did with the pennies, where do you fall? Do you fall above average? Do you fall below average? And the better question is, why does it matter? Well, it matters because students who engage in oral language about content are more successful in the acquisition of the other modalities. Reading and writing float on a sea of talk. The more talk that students engage in regarding your content area, the better that they're going to read about it and the better that they're going to write about it. So we know that that strong foundation of oral language supports the acquisition of literacy. If you want your students to be able to read and write about your content area, you have to provide them with opportunities to talk about your content area. So if you're interested in evaluating your own distribution in your classroom beyond what we've done here today, take one of the documents that looks like this, that's laying on the table in front of you. Take it back, gather some data from your instruction, and then analyze that information and see what you find. So there are columns for each day of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then each lesson or content area that you can fill in here on the left. And then just mark, on Monday during my first hour class, my students were engaged in reading and listening, but there was no writing and there was no speaking. And then do the same thing in the next class, and the next class, and all throughout the week. And just pay attention. What are your students doing? How are they engaging in language? Is it all passive? Is it all receptive? Are they producing any language at all? And then take a look at that. And then use that information to make some small changes in your classroom. Try to find opportunities to give them more time to engage in oral language, more structured collaborative conversations with their peers about the content, and then start paying attention to see if you see impacts in their reading and their writing development. For more information about our ELD program, on the back of the paper that you have today, you can find some facts about our program. Also, if you already have an English learner enrolled in one of your courses, you would have received an invitation for a Canvas course called Teachers of ELS. If you haven't already accepted that invitation, please do so and spend some time reviewing the information in that class. If you'd like to reach out to me, I would be happy to come and evaluate your classroom data with you and come up with some ideas together about how to add more opportunities for students to engage in oral dialogue with one another so that they can talk more about the content areas. If you want to collaborate to find ways to support your students, just reach out to me via email and I will come work with you, and we can come up with some great ideas together to support these students. Thank you for your time. I wish you the best of luck, and I hope to hear from you soon.